Hi, I'm Glenn Hughes.
And I'm Ed Muzio.
For 3 decades, I've been working inside a publicly traded company.
And for over a decade, I've been an entrepreneur supporting companies like Glenn's from the outside.
In this series, we look at the problems and challenges of the modern workplace
And provide our ideas and advice.
From the inside
and out.
Ed and I do a lot of coaching of individuals in our day job. And one of the most frequent questions that comes up to us is, I don't feel as smart as the other people in the room. How do I catch up? So Ed, how do they catch up?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you need to catch up. Sometimes when you're not as smart because you're new to the content or new to the group, that lets you ask the questions that other people want to ask, but they can't. So sometimes my advice is play to that strength and say, I'm new here, but I got to ask you something. And sometimes that's a good result.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's also a warning flag that says do some homework.
Don't do it when you've been there for a year and a half. That's not so good.
Yeah, well, we can come back to that because I'm not sure I agree with that either. But I do think, if you want to excel at your role, if you want to be really successful, you have to do your homework. You have to learn the people in the organization. You have to learn the processes of the organization. You have to learn the products of the organization. And you have to understand the purpose. And at first, those are going to seem like dumb questions, but ultimately, they're the questions you have to ask. And to your point, oh, by the way, don't be surprised if others don't know the answers either.
That's right. In our culture work, we focus first on purpose, and it's purpose, impact, incentive, and progress are the first 4. And that is, what are you trying to do? What output? Why does it matter to the organization? Why does it matter to you? And how do you know you're doing it? And it's not just new people that are having trouble answering those questions. Those are questions for everybody.
Yeah, my first day on the job, I was assigned almost 30 years ago to do PC board testing. And so I got sat down in front of a workbench, literally just walked me in, said, here's a workbench, dropped me down in front of it, said, here's a bunch of boards, here's a system that you test them in, and here's a procedure. Have a good day. And they walked away. Literally fish out of water, right? And so you open the procedure and I start reading. And I got up after about 15 or 20 minutes, walked across the room, found the nearest guy who was about 100 feet away and said, I have some questions. And he goes, yeah, sure, tell me. And he came over and helped me, and one of the things he said to me is, it's a little bit of a test we do to see how long it takes people to come up and ask for help. And we've had people sit there for a couple of days and get nothing done.
Couple of days.
And not ask for help, right? But we're training them that you're not going to know most of the things that are going on here, and your success is going to be predicated on you coming and asking us for what you need, rather than us coming up and telling you what we think you need.
That's funny, because in the same culture work, we talk about how do we optimize the patterns of behavior across organizations, leadership all the way down. What we talk about is once you start defining things like your purpose, why you're doing what you're doing and why it matters to the organization, you're going to come across questions. And we're very clear about this. We say we should expect you to not have complete answers, and getting those questions answered is actually the second half of the story. How you go about getting your answers from the organization, from the people around you, is actually pretty important. One of the tips that comes out of that, which applies to this conversation, is once you have a question like, why does this work matter, or where can I get this information, it's often useful, especially if it's a touchy topic or you're nervous about asking it, to frame it, instead of as a question, to frame it as a sort of a straw man. So instead of saying, Glenn, can you give me this information? I would say, Glenn, I'm supposed to get this information, I think, from these reference manuals. Is that right? Because I'm having some trouble. How would you advise me to that? Ask for advice instead, and you'll get a better response usually.
Yeah, that actually brings me back to your comment about you shouldn't still be stupid after 18 months. And in fact, you probably should be, right? I think the only way you get smart is by being stupid. You should be stupid in new areas, right? And then use those new areas to get smart. There's actually a quote I read from in a book on how to write novels. And one of their definitions of the difference between a hero and a villain is that the villain is fully formed. They have no learning left to do. The hero is in a constant state of learning, and it's that last step of learning that makes them stronger than the villain and able to overcome them, where the villain isn't able to learn to overcome the hero.
The learning is the hero's journey. And the organizational learning, by the way, when we talk about what should management and leadership be doing to make an organization effective, we talk about iterate solutions, make mistakes, make them quickly, learn from them, and move on. Or the short version of that is we would say, fail forward, fast.
Yeah, so in other words, if you think you know all the answers, you're probably the villain.
Or you're asking the wrong questions. So there you go. He's still learning. I'm still learning. Hopefully you're still learning too. What stupid question do you need to get answered today?